That did sort of work. We have an image at least. It's a horrible one. I'm gonna try to tweak that because that looks bad. Why is that so bad? Don't know. Interesting. Let's see if we can, because this looks good over here. On my streaming software it looks good, but for some reason the out signal is bad. Let's see if the output is. Let's see if we can put that perhaps. I don't know. Let's see. Well, that's slightly better at least. It's still pretty bad, but slightly better. No, there you go. Now it looks good. We are now in sync. Is the pretty good? I don't know, let's try. Let's see if the frame rate is good. Ah, good enough. Right then. With that, I think we can actually start doing something. Just gonna make sure I'm actually audible too, because I don't actually know if I am right now. I should have let me know later. Oh well. Oh, this is fun. Let's see how this goes then. Right. That is at least something. So let's dig around in this entire mess of things. Should move a few things out of the way. This is, by the way, behind the things on my entire desk, because it looks like this. It's a wry mess in its own right. But you know what I say. Messes are good. This is what we have for today. A wee little mech that I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to paint it in. Probably. I'm doing this probably. I think I'm going to paint it green. I should prepare this better because I realized that I put most of the green paints away. That's bad. Oh well. It's something at least. Here's also Crypt Wraith. Because Conquer Rome isn't good though. Crypt Wraith. It's a nice dark green. So I think you're gonna do this in the sort of this brush is shit. Why is this brush shit? I don't know. Do you know? Nope. I don't know either. It just is. But it's good for sort of this base coating step. Because this is not nice on the brush. Because I want this to be like painted. Properly painted. Brushing this into every single nook and cranny on this thing. Why? Well, because I don't know what I did to this brush. It died somehow. Constantly recurring problem with my synthetic brushes, but on the other hand, that is also why I keep using synthetic brushes, because if this happened to one of my few actual hair brushes, I would be crying. But this one is just more a shrug. Anyway, so what we're doing today is painting a Orion. And, well, I thought I was going to go back to the start of things. All the way back to how the Star League Defense Force and their tendency of sensible paint schemes for mechs. Well, maybe that is just that, unlike most later mercenary units and all, the Star League Defense Force pretty much painted their things standard grab green when not in specific camo settings. And of course, on the flip side of that, when they needed to, they of course painted them in a area appropriate camouflage. But when not specifically in any specific biome, they just were green. Boring old green, because that is what, well, a proper army unit does. And the Star League Defense Force was nothing if not a very standard army unit. If you disregard the whole 10 to 14 meter tall walking tanks, which is not normal by any stretch of imagination, but beyond that, everything else was normal. And of course, this reason for this is that this is mostly inspired by Colonel Kerensky. I think it was a colonel at least. I don't know. General Alexander Kerensky, anyway. The I would say leader, but the commander-in-chief of the Star League Defense Force and the Protectors of Terra, among other things. He ran an Orion for a long time. Although he's a bit more specialized than this one. This one is pretty basic. For all things intent purposes, it's a very basic one. I mean, part of me is like, yeah, I could technically just leave it at this. Yeah. So, I'm gonna go and pick up a few more greens. I'm gonna leave you here with this. Because, I mean, this is what it is. Isn't it? I will leave it in. Right, so this we did with Crypt Wraith. We're now going to add some Stone Golem, Military Shader, Elf Green, and Combat Fatigues. Why, you might wonder? Well, because why not? I mean, that is actually more specifically why not, because there are nice green colors. Apart from the Stone Golem is grey, but you know, sometimes you need a grey too. Because, you know, every now and then you need a good grey. Beyond that, let's let this dry a little bit before we hit it with some Military Shader to just even it out a bit. And then we're going to start hitting all the raised areas. Because, I mean, why not? I mean, we are not doing much per se, but let's test this out, shall we? I'm gonna try this out on the, yeah. Yeah, so we used nice little army shader on this, just to make sure that everything is nice and contrasty. Because, well, I like to. We also helps with the other parts later on. Because, not to be like that, but I'm not going to say I'm lazy, but I'm a bit comfy in that regard. It's like, yeah, I could put on a lot more work on that part, but you know what? Instead, I'm just going to it's just the easy way of doing it. And that works fine for me. It gets a bit more glossy than I wanted, but apart from that, it's okay. And as I said, a solid defense force, and I mean, by extension of that, you can also call in the Iridiani Light Horse and a few other units which use the same standard drab green. Now, of course, most painters these days use a lot of airbrushing and stuff. I don't do that because I don't have access to an airbrush, among other things. But even if I had, it's nice to just work with a brush every now and then. Also, if you're starting out, I would not recommend an airbrush, and if you're actually very familiar with an airbrush already, because it is a steep learning curve. A brush gives a direct tactile control that airbrush does not. Now, for painting big flat areas, an airbrush is great, because if you're painting tanks, go and knock yourself out with an airbrush. It's a great tool. Painting mechs, though, it's not necessarily as good of a tool. I don't know what I'm supposed to do while these things dry on stream. Actually, I'm not good at watching streams myself. Weird thing to admit while doing a stream, I know, but I always think it's good to be honest with your viewers about your abilities. So I always kind of wonder what you do while the model dries. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what to do now, actually. Think about it. How am I not here? Why did your weapon fall off? Its weapon fall off. I hate gluing. All the things I don't like, gluing resin is one of the things I really don't like. Because it's annoying. Not in a good way either, it's just annoying in an annoying kind of way. We're gonna put some more paint on this one while that thing dries. Free preview. By the way, if you want really nice models by for 3D printing and are into general fantasy, I would definitely recommend Artisan Guild. Not sponsored, not anything by them, but I really like them. They have really nice models. They are in this sort of heroic design, which is like Not particularly realistic even by fantasy model standards. Instead, they are more the same feel you get from, say, Games Workshop or other companies, where the design is a bit larger than life, although not quite as heroic scale as Games Workshop. Because, you know, these days it's good to have alternatives to the big companies. And Artisan Guild, they do a good job. I'm not sure that they anymore, it's a one-person operation at this point. I'm not entirely sure. Still, Artisan Guild do a really good job with fancy models. Much how like Titan Forge and Cyber Forge do. Now, if you want sci-fi models, I could, to some degrees, recommend the Cyberforge, which is Titan Forge's sci-fi line. Some really nice models there too, not as consistently nice, but still some really nice models. Yeah. Also, I now 3 times hit the microphone with the brush, which is great. Great and lovely. Should the hairdryer or something for this. Because that's something you should do. Actually, one thing I painted recently that I haven't showed off the this little fella, which is a troll, also from Artisan Guild, and it has this sort of Nordic fantasy style, I would call it. I think if I can actually lift the how much in focus if we want to do this. It's one of these interesting experiments, because the camera does not have the focus depth of this really, but I mean at least you can see it a bit more. Very fun little fella actually. I like it. Turned out nice. Subtle in its sort of design. Very fun little thing. But yeah. So painting starting defense. Technically you could just put this on the table, like paint the weapons and stuff and some details, but in other ways it's done actually. Of course, we're not gonna be that. We're not gonna be that easy, are we? No. We are gonna add more to this. Maybe not a lot more, but at least some more. And that's special in its own right. Now, some talking about combat fatigues. We're gonna use combat fatigue to like do some edge highlighting, which is like my go-through method. I'm really bad at anything else, but damn it if I don't know how to edge highlight. Actually, I don't know particularly well how to edge highlight, but I know a little bit of it at least. Well, this is an atlas, by the way, I painted recently. Surprisingly in scale. I like that with these new ones. They're more in scale than the old ones. With each other, that is. Not with the map. And I'm honest in the fact we're going to try and make terrain for this based on the scale of these mechs. Which means it's not really a 6mm scale. It's a little bigger than 6mm scale. But still, surprisingly big. Not what I was looking for. Small is what I was looking for. Surprisingly small. I'm gonna try and make some terrain for this and scratch build it. Why scratch build terrain? Some wonder. Well, because it's fun to scratch build things. Actually have some actual training in scratch building. There was the weapon thing I lost before. Put that over there. Not on the horns though, because that was break it off. But yeah. That is what it is, honestly. Let's see now. There's a brush. There's a good brush. So yeah, if we what I think I'm going to do with this is just carefully just go over all the areas that aren't. Yeah. I want to do anything more with it. I'm tempted to add some red detailings to it because, well, like stripes or some things, but I'm not sure where to put it. And some of these, like, where do I put those things? Don't know. Do you know? No. I did build a house recently. Well, probably overestimated the house, but it's a little building at least. Now this was like a 10-minute job. Because I had some leftover art paper. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not build a house? And I mean, the idea is like sort of shopping center or something like that. Because it's just sitting like, oh, like something like. My kerning is schwa simply. But to be completely free hand, I think it's pretty okay actually. I mean, that's the thing, to be honest. I mean, this is a silly little thing. That's a supermarket. I know. This one is like, why? Nobody knows why. It's like supermarket. They have clothes and things. I actually have a few of these old, like, HeroClix models too. They're a very old scale. But at one point I attempted to pick a few of these up and customize them too, but that's many years ago now. This is a repaint. I did not have this paint to begin with. It's an interesting little thing though, to be honest. I don't have a Raven yet, so for now, like 2006 WizKids. This was not a. I think it's promo units. This one and a. I don't have that near. Yeah, there it is. A agri-mech, agricultural mech, lumber mech. So that's kind of fun actually. Again, this should be repainted, I think. I consider repurposing the arm for something else. Because that is a very angry gun. That's another cannon if I saw one. But yeah, these are not in scale exactly. Because this is the cockpit. This thing should be somewhere around a light or a medium mech. Although I am inclined to not agree with the whole size thing. Because, well, of course I don't have the... But I have the Atlas, which is 100 ton. I also have the King Crab, which is a lot smaller, and you have the Marauder 2, which is somewhere in the middle. I mean, technically, you could just super reinforce a Centurion chassis and have it be slightly bigger, but just weigh 100 tons. The reason you don't do that is because it's not efficient. No, that and gameplay reasons. Because, well, if it was that easy, they would just do that to everything, wouldn't they? And then that wouldn't be any fun. That would not be much fun at all, would it? No, it would not. Because then we just have a lot of the same mech running around. And they kind of didn't want that. Because that doesn't sell metal models, does it? Having a lot of the same mech running around? No, they need us to have different mechs. A lot of different mechs. It's kind of fun that most of these mechs are like several hundred years old. Which of course makes sense from some degree, but I mean, anyone who's trying to run a car that's even 10 years old knows that it's also kind of laughable in a lot of ways. Because, you know, there's a lot of technical reasons why I don't think several hundred years old military equipment would be all that efficient, and it wouldn't be unless you have a world where people basically bomb themselves back to Stone Age. Not exactly Stone Age per se, but well, lot away. That is pretty much my big worry. For a big war. I think I'll start knocking knowledge back several hundred years. That's kind of depressing as a thought. All the land winnings we've done so far, all knocked back to like turn of the century levels, just because people couldn't keep their fingers off their triggers. Kind of sad. In some ways, I guess, unavoidable, but still sad, nonetheless. Yep, sorry, missed comment. Yes, it's an Orion. It is. I actually don't know what kind of Orion it is. I think. If I can find where I actually put the card. Yeah. Anyway, it's an Orion, yes. I have misplaced the card. That's bad. Oh dear. That's actually not good, because I need those cards to actually be able to play with the unit. Well, I think I don't need them. It's good to have. Here, found them. Let's see. What does the thing think that Orion is actually? It's the Orion 1, Orion K, the K model. Or the M model, so to get for Alpha Strike. That's kind of nice. Does it actually present that though? I don't know. I know that the version that Kerensky run was a bit special because it stripped out a lot of equipment to actually make the mech, I guess more a command mech. But the cards you get for these are Jimmy J. Hawk Lee of House Merrick, 5th Defenders of Andurian. So that's a nice one. And you get MJ Wang of 1st Confederation Reserve Cavalry. So that's kind of nice. I think this configuration is not the one I used to run in MVO though. MechWarrior Online, because I used to run one with twin PPCs in it. But still, it's kind of fun actually. Anyway, I completely lost a thread. That's okay. But yeah, it's always kind of sad the whole thing of bombing and set back to Stone Age. I mean, I know they had to build up this whole sort of reason why tech was so bad, because this, in order to produce models in a good size, you had to make the board fairly small, because the big models had to be fairly large, and no one had like an entire living room floor to dedicate to Battletech, so they had to compromise. And that's why, for example, all the weapons have completely trash range, because well, you have a limited table space. And then I had to make up a reason for this, and they was like, yeah, people bombed and set back to Stone Age. It makes sense. It makes for some drama in it. It's functional. So that's interesting. But it's kind of laughable, the ranges in this game actually, if you think about it compared to modern weapons, even weapons that were modern at this time and age. But since everyone has the same disadvantages, I guess it works. But it's still kind of fun. It's like, yeah, this mech has a worse range than some rifles. There's a lot of inconsistencies in the Battletech game. Some are mix of fun information, some with just like sometimes it's just game design. I mean, game design is always going to be the trumping thing, because no matter how cool your lore is, doesn't matter if the game is unplayable. Something the video game industry should think a bit about. But I mean, for most people, because video games not really about quality entertainment anymore. It's about a quick buck. That's sad. That's a bit of a like with tabletop games. There's a bit less of that. Not entirely less, but a bit less. But yeah, I'm not sure what to do about that. But yeah, that was kind of fun when you played the MechWarrior 5 game. So the lore not just like, oh, I see where this is going, I see where this is going, and you got the payoff in the end. It's like, because you go like, oh, time advances, so we get very close to a certain amount of dates. Like, this is interesting, and they went there. Because story-wise, the clan invasion is really fun. Sorry for spoilers if you haven't played the game yet, but it's getting a bit old at this point, so I don't care. Now, it usually is handled pretty poorly, because, well, the clans have a lot of issues too. There's a lot of things wrong with the clans. you look at it like as its own, it's a take on whole alien thing. Because society is so different that it is literally alien to the what we call the baseline society. And yet in this case it is not technically not aliens. It's not any extraterrestrials in the traditional sense. They are just transhuman, which is an interesting take on it, because that is an angle not that often explored from that angle. I mean, you always have the elves in fantasy. They've always been sort of transhuman. So it was portrayed as slightly better at everything than the humans they share a world with. They live longer, they're better hearing, better eyesight, better everything pretty much. But in fact, in sci-fi, it's not so much common that just better humans show up. It's usually aliens that are better than us. Which of course, I mean, it's an interesting angle to explore. But at glance to say the reason why they're there is kind of annoying, because they were basically a range refresh. A reason to get people out spending money on new, more powerful units. It was definitely pay to win. If you could afford new clan stuff, you were gonna whip ass. There is no arguing about that. Makes sense from a business standpoint. But that was kinda heavy handed. There was no elegant way to introduce them. Although I kinda like the whole mercenary angle. But yeah, I don't know, that's something like, I'm a bit weird with the whole what I'm supposed to talk about or not talk about when it comes to Battletech, because on one hand it's like so old, but it's also such a narrow thing that if you haven't been exposed to it beforehand, there's a good chance that you actually walk into this unspoiled, which is rare. Usually media you get spoiled pretty quickly, but Battletech media is so small and so specific. If you walk into this new, you are a good chance of just coming in unspoiled. And if I'm a bit curious about how much I should talk about, because there's a lot of lore. Everything in Battletech has lore. Even the horribly racist stuff. Or it's not racist per se, but it's a lot of stereotyping. A lot of stereotyping. Some can be fairly harmful actually. But yeah. It's an interesting conundrum, to say the least. And I mean, what is that man to do? I don't know. But yeah, the Star League Defense Force, the last, I wouldn't call them good, because they weren't good per se, they were still but they were, as far as military units go, fairly decent. They had ideals, they had things they stood for and believed in, and they tried to be knightly to some degree. And of course, after them, everything went well. Tits up. there's not much you can do about that, is there? Well, this is what the writer wrote to be, and Battletech is very much 90s, or 80s, even more 80s edge. And it has maybe some late 70s edge in there, although this 70s edge was a bit different than later edge. But yeah, a lot of 80s edge in it. Not necessarily bad per se, but it is there. Very, not very inclusive, if I put it like that. I know some people like it. Everything doesn't have to be inclusive, and I don't agree with that, but I can understand your point. But I think you should always strive to be inclusive, because if you're not, then you're just shutting people out for no good reason. And that is a thing. People get angry and upset with the whole inclusive angle, and I understand how it can feel to be thrust into your face. But what is the alternative, really? If you're not inclusive, then what is the alternative? Exclusive. And I know that the word exclusive have become something positive to some degrees. Something that is non-mundane, that is special. But it's not necessarily a good word in its own right. Oh shh, I messed that one up. I messed that one up. That's bad. Let's get a more sort of dry brushing effect on this, because yeah, this is turning pretty good actually. Anyway, yeah, a lot of weird shit in Battletech. Because it's very much a shadow of its times. Not an excuse any of the weird shit, but it's not unexpected. And you can't really do much about it at this point. You can just, but I guess the most you can do is quietly forget some of the less good stuff. I mean, they have pretty much forgotten an entire subset of it, so with the whole erasing of the space birds. Again, I'm not against erasing the space birds. The space birds were weird, but it's proof that you can technically get rid of parts of lore without things collapsing. But yeah, let's put it like this. A lot of Battletech was not particularly kind towards Asian culture or Hispanic culture or, well, any non-Central European culture. Heck, even the American culture gets fairly rotten slap. But yeah, they did House Liao dirty, very dirty. Not in a charming way. I understand the need for a solid villain, and they do make for a good villain, but in more modern context, it's an issue. I'm pretty sure that is how it is. Now, of course, some people be like, well, who are you to talk about that? Well, that's a good question. Who am I to talk about that? No one really. Someone with opinions. So in this whole mix of everything, the Starlink Defense Force does still stand as a sort of bastion of civility, because they were the last outpost of civil society in the Battletech universe. Everything that came after them was just horrible. Between coups, mass genocide, and ethnical cleansings, and all that horrible stuff. All for story. As is. It's all in the service of the story. My consideration is changing. That's weird. Yeah, I basically got a new camera, a GoPro camera, and realized it has a fixed focus. So it showed a lot more of the desk than I was intending to show. But it's a desk, and usually you try to keep the cutting mat in view, and that does leave a lot of space to hide things. But this is a desk as it is, and I know a lot of people probably get stressed of me. I like my desk messy, because I have this scatterbrain thing, so I like to just go from project to project, and then I can pick this one up for a while, paint it, put it back, pick something else up, like half-painted Space Wolf. It's kind of fun. Also, I might paint test models. These sort of things, you know. Yeah, house layout is fantastic in a lot of ways, but they did get done very dirty. Can't really get away from that. It's going to be fun to see new. I have to pick up new novels. I hope they get done a bit less dirty in new lore. It's going to be fun to see like competent layout people. Because I mean, they have some of the coolest spy units, but most of them are just standard generic Fu Manchu-ish villains. That's kind of sad. Because I mean, they could do so much more with them. Now, speaking of that, of course, I'm the supporter of a faction that's created to be destroyed, basically, because I'm a Russell Hagen myself. And I mean, they were basically just created to be destroyed. But there's another one of these like very weird mix of cultures. With the whole Japanese, Swedish, Norwegian mix. Very interesting. But yeah, it's still weird. Kinda nice to see the whole I think that's why I picked Ghost Bear as my clan unit for my clans pick my clan units in. Because they're like the best clan and the best nation, best house put together. And many people are going to agree with that. But yeah, Liao, poor bastards. Not sure what to do about them. Just painted over all my. You spend like a lot of time trying to get good, nice lines, and you just slap paint all over them. Oh well. It is what it is. Not much to do about that. I'm considering picking up a unit, not a unit, lance packs. I saw the new news they're gonna start releasing unit specific ones, like so the Handsome Rough Riders, Grey Death Legion, and all those. And I'm very tempted to pick those up once they become available in my region and paint them unit specific. Although some of the paint schemes are not all that exciting, like not to be harsh on the Grey Death Legion, but their camo is very much the same 80s edge to it. I mean, Grayson Death Carlisle, it's such a 80s edge name. You can't really get around that. It was kind of fun, actually. But it would be fun to pick those packs up and paint them. They also contain alternative sculpts, which are nice because I'm kind of missing. I hope they're gonna release all the hero mech ones. Because I got the Marauder alternate sculpt, but I would like the other ones too on the Kickstarter. I mean, I understand why they probably won't do that because people are weird, and probably some people get angry that they release Kickstarter stuff in the real world, but I'm not. I'm like, I want those alternative sculpts. So that's a thing, isn't it? I mean, I like the Savage boxes. Those came from Kickstarter to begin with, in a way. I really like those. Mystery boxes, I love them. And these are wonderful little things. Gotta get more of those. I don't know why I like it, but I do. Listen, I'm sure we actually got everything on this one. No, we have some here we didn't catch. Yeah. I was thinking of painting this something like Team Banzai first, which is like aggressive yellow. Greenish aggressive yellow. But then I was like, nah. Let's do something a bit more, a bit less aggressive. And I'm like, what can I do then? It's like, it's a Starlink Defense Force. That's about as mellow as you get. Perhaps not the most interesting of camo specs, but at the same time, it has a certain charm to it. Being all this basic. Very basic, not particularly exciting schemes. There's a certain charm to this basic doing. Because sometimes you just need very basic. dear lord, yes, getting the mystery box in Europe. I was lucky in my local store, not one of the locals, but one of the stores here where I live, actually got like 9, 10, 18 boxes in, like 2 displays. And I was like, I'm picking up another display now, thank you very much. It was sold in 2 days, and now it's like rest noted. Rest noted? It's on. It's you have to like put in your email address, and they will email you if they get a hold of any more. That's kind of sad, actually. But yeah, I wish I could get a hold. It was easier for us to get a hold of anything from Catalyst. It's kind of difficult. And same would be with the new force packs. I mean, I was like manically holding on to my clan invasion Kickstarter box. I was like, I have no idea when or if I'm gonna get hold of any more mechs ever. So it's like, I don't want to do these, and except then I'm gonna have to rely on 3D printed mechs, and that's not as fun. Although, say what you want about 3D printed mechs and 3D printing in general, but I found some really nice 3D printed mechs on my miniverse, not my miniverse, my mini factory. Just from the whole like getting hold of designs that either aren't done yet or versions that aren't done yet. If you want to like, if you want to have a what you see, what you get kind of approach to Battletech, where they actually have the correct weapon layout and things. Now, I'm not too fussed about that myself, but if that's a thing, there are some really nice places. Like I think Matt Mason, Sylogy, I think the username is. Really great designs. Original but still inspired. It's not like just ripping 3D models or scanning existing them, but I mean they're clearly inspired, but they're not they're original enough that you still get away with it. It's kind of nice because some people just rip 3D models from MechWarrior Online and adapt those, and that is, I'm not entirely okay with that. This is more my wheelhouse. Now the official models are still better in my opinion, but having some actual like a K2 cat, for example. No, it's a cat K2 coming, but before that there was none. Yeah, wet pellets are weird. But they're also very handy for these sort of things. But I'm not using it as much as I should, to be honest. I see a lot of these like really good painters that use them to do magic. I mean, like, I don't really know how to do that. But it is surprisingly useful actually, and it's going to be even more useful as summer comes, because trying to paint in summer with out of wet palette, it's difficult, to put it lightly, because the paint dries out so quickly, especially if you less issue if you use some better paints, but army painters like I do use or Games Workshop still paints, they dry so quick because that is what they're designed to do. They're designed to dry quick on the model. The problem is that they also dry very quickly on the palette and on the brush. And for a very long time I was like, I'm not going to make a wet palette. That sounds unnecessary. And then I got one and I was like, it has its uses. I'm not going to say it's as much of a must-have as some people do, but it's a nice tool. Oh, I should actually show, speaking of 3D printed, speaking of 3D printed MVO models, yeah, it's a shonker. This is a FDM printed catapult from Gambody, I think the page is called. This was printed really low res. If you look at it close, it looks horrible. But it's nice to have. And it's surprisingly posable if you print it correctly. I didn't, so mine had to be glued in. Like at one point, the legs were movable, the arms were movable, everything was movable. But then I just glued things down because, yeah, it was crazy. And this is printed like the standard size it comes in. You can scale this up like 2, 3, 4, 500%. This have like a gigantic one. If anyone watched the Death from Above web series, when that they used about this slightly smaller for their show. But yeah, I love this one. I'm gonna get it painted at some point, but never did. And yeah, it's ginormous and I love it. And it's just sitting on a shelf, just like, because it's a catapult. Ah. I like this one. I'm gonna get spray painted at some point. I started with priming the legs and never got it done. So, but yeah. At one point, I was considering getting an entire lance or two of that and make a ginormous convention game, but I never got that off the ground, to be honest, because the terrain would be too much a hassle to get through. But it would be fun. But yeah, that's a standard. They just ripped a 3D model from MVO and adapted it, and I make that sound like it's just a 5-minute job. Of course it isn't. It's still a lot of work adapting the model, but you have a blueprint at least. So yeah, it's kind of a fun model. I should paint that up on it at some point, but it takes a lot of paint. An airbrush would be great for that. When it gets to that size, yeah, then airbrush is the way to go. Without a doubt. So I mean, what's beyond that? It is what it is. Now I'm trying to get these things done fairly quickly. There's no such thing as quickly though, but fairly quickly. I should really get the clan mechs done too from the clan Kickstarter. That's a thing. No, they have a fairly easy access to mechs. And I can say, if you're in the Nordic region and don't have too much of a heart attack around shipping, the store Alphaspel does have a decent selection of mech warrior stuff, which is kind of nice. And again, not an ownership from sponsored, because that would be great, but I'm not. But I can recommend them if you like need something to check out. They're very nice to deal with, and I should probably get some good resources otherwise people to check out. Because trying to find mechs is a hassle, and I think it is partially what keeps this hobby back. Because like, say what you want about the big ones like Games Workshop and all, but they have the distribution thing down. Sometimes a bit too down. I mean, there's not like gaming stores going to take in these products because our community is a bit too small for that. I mean, as a store, you need to have overhead, and if you're selling like 10-15 boxes every 3 or 4 months, that's not enough for anything. It's kind of sad. Should I have a check to show off how it looks so far? It's coming along nicely, actually, I think. I really should be handling it with my hands also, but that's a thing. Yeah, I've been looking at getting one of these battery operated airbrushes for big flat surface painting. But I don't know. It's one of these things. I'm like, should I do this? Should I don't? I don't know. I should get an airbrush too. I should get a compressor at least. I'm looking at getting a good pressure tank for resin casting. But that's not all these. Like, where to get one of those these days? You don't. Especially where I live, where no one simply don't use those anymore. Because it used to be used for painting with like pressurized painting, but these things are just not made like that anymore. You don't need a big pressure pot anymore. You just have those sort of compression screw on the bottom. So getting a hold of one of these big tanks is difficult, it turned out. And of course it's the whole modifying it to actually be workable as a pressure vessel. But yeah, if you get a compressor, you also can do airbrushing, of course, and then it's a thing. Not just that my neighbors will be all that happy when I start doing airbrushing though. And well, I don't have a good space to do it ventilation wise. That's like the second problem is like ventilation. Because trust me when you say you need good ventilation when doing airbrushing, otherwise you like die. And we don't want to be dying though. But yeah, that's one of these things I'm considering getting. I don't think it's still enough of a hand to work with an airbrush for model work, but big flat surface painting, like for example, trying to paint the house, the supermarket, those would be nice on an airbrush to do, because it takes time. And well, whenever you can save time, you should save time. Especially if you have a lot of work to do, or if you, like me, actually have a work, like a proper job needs to be taken care of too. Saving time on big flat surface painting is nice. Let's see how this looks. Let's go in here. I almost forgot the legs again. It's her legs. I did another time. It's like paint the entire thing. I was like, oh, this looks great. And I realized I've forgotten to paint the inside of the legs. I was like, yeah, okay. Yes, go back to doing the. And this is where wet pads comes in very handy. You forget things like that. I'm like, oh, I forgot to paint the inside of the legs. Alright, what do you know? It's actually starting to look like something. Which is like always nice when you like reach that stage and things start to look like what you're envisioning. You realize you might actually have produced something. Yeah, I think it's actually looking pretty good. Let's see if we can dig out a bit more pure. I'm also looking at some speed paints actually, because again, for taking out big areas, speed paints would be great. Just going over some pure, what's it called, combat fatigues now. Just get some more real highlights in the highlights. This week you go overboard, and not be shitting on way better painters than myself, but Games Workshop's the metal team tend to go way overboard on this stage. Like everything gets a very solid level of highlights. Their edge highlighting on their models are like borderline crazy. I know it's a stylistic choice. I'm not gonna say it's bad per se. I'm just saying that I don't think it's for me. But it's fun to see like different styles. So yeah, there we go. I actually haven't, but I'm definitely gonna look it up. Project Sukhov. Gonna have to look that up, definitely. I unfortunately can't reach the computer right now, but I'm gonna check it up as soon as I close the stream. What kind of stuff is it? Is it models? Is it miniature? Is it? Yep. Oh, we need to paint the windows. I like this make. It has good windows. I always get blasted for that because I'm not painting my windows or my cockpit windows to the accepted standard, which is like I fully understand why people like go deep on these. I'm not much of a fan of that because I like the whole. Again, I'm more of a MechWarrior Online person. Like these windows are more solid slabs of metal, see-through metal. I'm pretty sure they had see-through metal. I think at least they had see-through metal. But some people are like, oh, you have to do them the correct way. I was like, what is the correct way? And they're like, wet blend them. And I was like, they are 4mm tall. It's like 2 by 1mm square. I'm not gonna wet blend a 2 by 1mm square. And like, you have to do it. Well, actually, not much anymore. But I had a guy in the earlier videos was like, you have to do it this way. I'm like, why do I have to do it that way? And it's like, because that's the way you do it. And I'm like, it's not my way to do it. And it's like, your way is wrong. I was like, fine, whatever. I mean, you shouldn't fall to the pressure, but at the same time, at one point or another, you get like, I can't be bothered to argue about this anymore. So I just gave in. So we're gonna paint the windows later on, but first we're gonna paint the guns. Because I've always painted weapons silver, because the idea is to take these to conventions at some point, and then it's easier if people can just look down at them and understand what is a weapon and what is not a weapon. Because it's not always entirely clear. So it is paint most not all the weapons silver to some degree or another. So you can point to that's a weapon, that's a weapon, that's a weapon. I almost slapped silver right on something that shouldn't be silver. That would be bad. I'm gonna say I'm a master painter by any stretch of imagination. But I'm actually pretty happy with this is turning into. Again, this is one of these things that people like. That's actually a good idea. Yeah, I'm pretty much just gonna paint mine with some Eod and yellow later, because I think it gives a good, nice color. But yeah, I was not aware of that how excruciatingly high standard is painting windows on mechs. That was apparently triggered more than one person. It's like, yeah, okay, sure, fine. If that is the way it is, of course, that is the way it's going to be, but why is it that way? And I think that is, again, a thing with the whole small communities. Ah! Damn it. I'll have to fix that later. So, is that a weapon or is that something else? Is this a weapon or is it just gunk? I have no idea. It's a really tiny little thing. I'm gonna leave that for now. Ah, like that. Ain't that nice? Blowing on them is such a good tip if you have trouble getting the missile part to show up. Sorry. So push the point into the dimples. Yeah. That turned out pretty nice actually. Now I'm just gonna apply the paint to the windows and then pretty much can be done actually. Which is good because the sun just came out of the clouds and gonna mess up my entire paint area. I'm pretty much in front of a big window which I have blinds covering it. But it doesn't cover all the way. So let's see now if we can just carefully apply this. Woohoo, that's a bit too much paint. Let's see now. Like that and like that. And now we just try to dab in a bit more in one corner just to make sure that we get a bit of a gradient. Yeah, that looks nice. Again, I'm gonna try to lift up a bit, see if you can see. I'm not entirely sure how much you can see, but yeah, I'm happy with that. That went surprisingly well, actually. Especially as this is more or less just a camera test for intents and purposes. I'm gonna try and stream every Tuesday, but before I did that through a really crappy webcam, and it's like it made my heart cry and my soul. So, for intents and purposes, this is a nice Starlink Defense Force Orion. I'm gonna put some pictures later on Instagram. Tawess the me. It's gonna be a link somewhere. If I don't forget to put it up there, probably forgot to put it up there. If you want a more beauty shot version of it. But yeah, that's nice. Thank you for hanging out with me doing this. We are now going to call it for today, and we're gonna be back Saturday with a more in-depth video where we're gonna go a bit deeper into. Oh, well, at least we're not that this far off the mech. And then come Tuesday next week, we are going to try and tackle some more mystery box mechs. Yes, I already opened them. I can admit into that. I was like, I'm gonna open 2 of them at a week, just do a nice thing, and it's like, no, we're not tore them all open. I'm gonna give a little bit of sneak peek what we're coming up next, painting mech wise. So, next after this, we are going to paint these 2 little shonkers, which is a Masakari, Warhawk, and I actually don't remember what that is. Embarrassingly enough, I can't remember what it is. Is it a Nova cat? Yep, it's a Nova cat. See, I had some sort of memory. So yeah, this we paint next week, or this Saturday and next Tuesday. Any suggestions on specs or designs you want to see for these? I mean, I'm open to suggestions. Right down to Snord Pink, which is something's going to get painted Ronda Snord Pink at some point. I'm not sure why, but something is going to get painted Ronda Snord Pink. Probably a Highlander. I have a Highlander. I could paint that one Ronda Snord Pink. I have a lot of pinks like this. Nice pink. I kind of forgot to try painting pink on just to be prepared for that. Really nice, actually. So yeah, those guys are gonna come in next. But for now, this is it. I say thank you all for watching, and until next time, stay safe, be kind, as always, do play fair. Bye!